Welcome to season 3 of Her Money Club Stories. I'm your host, Rachel Minnie, and I'm excited to share with you that Her Money Club has grown to over 600 women learning together about monetizing their skills, money management, and building wealth. After 17 years of being in the financial services industry, I'm really over the industry selling you products you don't need and now focusing on how they can best support you with your mindset and habits. So, I want millennial women to be less stressed about money, and I have a surprise for you. I've revamped our money library membership and will be giving it to you for a limited time at half the price. The money library gives you access to over 146 bite-sized lessons like organizing and automating your money, establishing clear goals, specifically based on your values, eliminating stress by improving your money mindset, discussing with community members just like you who are taking action to get 1% better every day with their money journey. If you want access to the money library and all of the basics that you need to be successful with your habits and money mindset, you can check it out at financialfitnessunleashed.com/membership. The next 100 members will receive the half off price. Again, that's financialfitnessunleashed.com/membership. I'm excited to share more with you this season and hear about your aha moments from this episode. Don't forget to share a screenshot of the episode and tag me at Her Money Club Community on Instagram. With that, let's dive into our juicy conversation today. Hello and welcome everyone to Her Money Club Stories, Season 3, Amazing. This season, we are going to be focusing on the truth behind what it takes to work your corporate job and monetize your skills and really fully live in your passions. And today I have a really exciting guest. We have a lot in common when it comes to talking about mindset and releasing trauma and really understanding how your mind-body connection can allow you to feel at ease as you do all of these different things to fulfill the needs that you have. So as you follow along with her story, we're going to discover some mindset tools, tricks, building blocks, challenges that unfold. And I would love to introduce to you Merydith. Merydith, what are you doing now? And what are kind of the different elements of the work that you incorporate into your life?
Oh man, depends on the day of the week and sometimes the hour of the day.
Right.
And thank you for having me. Excited to be here. So I am a serial entrepreneur. I own a mobile bartending company and I do bar consultation for event companies. I am a holistic trauma resolution practitioner. I have a lot of different modalities that I offer with that, from mindset work, subconscious rewiring, to somatics, parts therapy, trauma releasing body movement, nervous system regulation, the list goes on. And I am a waitress and a bartender.
I love it. I love it. Okay. I'm really curious how you even got started in trauma resolution and nervous system regulation. Like, how did that begin for you?
Yeah, everyone asks me how I got into that work, and it's always by hitting rock bottom, of course.
Yeah. Right.
I
How did that go?
Yeah. A lot of trauma in my life. I was hit by a semi truck when I was 17 years old. I was diagnosed with a lot of back problems even prior to that. I had a back surgery when I was 19. I wasn't able to walk for a lot of my 20s. I experienced sexual assault. I lost a $6 million investment for my first company. And then my infertile partner and I were all of a sudden pregnant, and I was pregnant. And so that was like just the $6 million loss all happened within 6 months. And I had built my identity into that business. So I suddenly didn't know who I was and had lots of unprocessed stuff coming up, and add mom guilt and societal expectations of like perfect motherhood and my like all or nothing perfectionist patterns, and you have the perfect makings of a breakdown. So
Yeah.
I knew that my path was untenable as it was, and that I was going to cause a lot of harm for my child if I didn't find some solutions. So At my rock bottom, I said, I have two choices. I can either commit myself or I can give it hell and figure out a way to heal. And I started with mindset and self-care. In the middle of like the kind of storm of my breakdown, had this aha moment go off, and it was like, I am running my head into a wall over and over and over, wanting something different, knowing that I'm here for a reason. I've had multiple near-death experiences. Like, I know I'm here for a reason, and it feels like it's big, and I don't know what it is. I feel so disconnected from that, and it gave me a lot of anxiety. And then I realized I'm not doing anything differently though. I know I'm here for a reason. I want something different than what I have now. And I haven't done anything to change. So I started Googling the most successful people in the world, and they all had two things in common. They knew that they were their number one asset. And so they had a very structured self-care practice. And they knew that their thoughts had a very profound effect on their reality and on reality creation. And so I started there. I created a little self-care routine, and I committed to completely changing my thoughts. And in 4 months, my life was completely different. And I actually made a post about this today. Mindset work took me so far. Like, my life was completely transformed in 4 months, and I hit a wall. It was like, there's this resistance, like I'm plateauing, backsliding a little, like what else is going on? So then I started looking at energetics, and same thing, great results, but there was still something missing. So then I started getting like really obsessed with the mind-body connection. And that led me to nervous system regulation and led me to trauma work. And that all of that combined, the holistic human approach has changed everything in my life and in lives of my clients. And that's how I got into it, from a lot of my own trauma.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. And thank you for your vulnerability and sharing. It's not always easy for us to kind of relive some moments. So I appreciate that. I want to start with something you said around, and 4 months later, I changed my life. That we do this a lot where we generalize, and I want to understand the specifics for others who are like, okay, but how? Because there's a lot of people in our community who have that similar stuck point where they know change needs to happen. They are very aware, but what's like the sticking point, right? Like, what actually got you to change? How did you do it? Like, tell me a little bit about the first few days, but then when you realized 4 months later, or maybe you realized a year later, oh, that 4-month period of time is what did the thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, there were kind of different things with the elements that shifted that were individual to that element. So with my back, this all happened between Christmas and New Year's. And so I was like, okay, New Year's, I'm starting, right? My mindset is changing. And so I did some identifying. At that point, I was so cute. I was like, no, I don't have limiting beliefs. I know that I want these things. And I hadn't dug into the subconscious layers. And if the subconscious, the conscious, and the body are not on board, it will not be in your reality. So for my physical body, I actually wasn't able to walk very often. And I got into a little fender bender, and it was the first thing in January that like really challenged the mindset practice that I had dedicated myself to. And as it's happening, I'm like, this woman is screaming at me because it was totally my fault. And I am like, no, everything is happening for my highest and greatest good. The next day I pull my car over, and I was in so much pain. And I was like doing the coping thing, right? So I pull up Facebook, and the first thing I see is a chiropractic ad. And I called them immediately, made an appointment. And it just so happened that that little fender bender got me $5,000 in free chiropractic care. And that chiropractor, out of all the chiropractors and doctors I've seen, within 6 weeks, my entire spine shifted. I was able to stand up for the first time, like all the way in almost a decade, maybe more. From that, I was able to be active and lose 60 pounds in 4 months. I was, that alone, not being in chronic pain, had a huge shift on my personality and my perspective, and reinforced the mindset work. I did a lot of, I didn't know what it was at the time, but I was doing a lot of somatic work and tuning into my body. I wrote a letter to my womb, apologizing to it for all of the things that I had put it through, and also sending it love for all of the things that it had endured, that it didn't choose, and really learned to like fall back in love with myself and be present with my body. And I just like really fell in love with my body again. And I had a moment today actually where I was talking about it in that post, and I just like stopped and I hugged myself and I was like, you are so amazing. Like, you are this incredible vehicle that is so resilient and like is the vehicle through which I get to experience life. And like, our bodies are just so incredible, and we make them bad all the time, and they're just so awesome. So that was a huge part of it. And then I realized that I was really committed to victimhood and excuses. And I hired my first coach with money I did not have, which I don't always recommend. But I did it.
Yeah.
And I made it work. And in one session, she was like, you're just committed to your excuses. And I got in my feelings and I huffed around for like 3 hours. Like, you don't know me. My life is just harder. And then I was like, no, I am committed. I'm going to figure out a way. And within a week, I had a brand new job, left the very toxic work environment that I was in and did it gracefully, which is, I bet old me, it was like the flip tables kind of girl, like not a leave the job peacefully.
Oh, girl, I know. Yes, I feel you.
Yeah. And I had like a really terrible, inappropriate boss. And I was able to be like grateful for that experience and be like, without this uncomfortable experience, I never would have been forced out of this comfort zone, right? Because when we're used to something, that is often perceived as safer than the unknown. So it finally, like, all of these things collectively, like, finally got me to move. I got a new job when I didn't think that I could, tripled my income, went from a beat up old Pontiac to a beautiful Cadillac SUV for my 30th birthday, improved my relationships to myself and to my family, became a present mother. Like, it was a lot.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. So juicy. I love it. Okay. I gotta decide, like, where do I want to go next? Because there's so much here. And I think what I resonate with the most is that self-love journey. And this has been even newer for me to go deeper in as I travel the world. And it's like, how do I exercise and travel? How do I, manage the self-love piece as I'm gallivanting all over the place? And I really had to have that same type of honest conversation of, making excuses. I have a yoga mat that I travel with, and I wasn't using it the first half of my travels, and just like, okay, I just have to change and like really commit to that process. So I acknowledge you for the commitment, because something that we actually talked about in the episode people will listen to before this one, making the decision to commit, and now the little intricacies of what happens when you commit, and this unfolds with this and this. It's like the linchpin, right? Every single little piece makes a difference, and then that's what creates this 4-month resounding transformation in life. Okay, since we are Her Money Club, let's talk about the transition where you got a new job and then tripled your income. I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I went from serving at a burger and brew pub to working at a fine dining burlesque club, prohibition bar and jazz lounge. It's very, very highly rated in the country. It's pretty famous. And I'm still there almost 5 years later, and I still love it. It still has a very special place in my heart. And I'm so grateful to it, because it's taught me so much, and it has provided an amazing income that has allowed me to grow my businesses and to invest in my education and to invest in my developing my skill sets and provide for my family and allow my partner to retire and be a stay-at-home dad. And have I gotten to where I wanted to go as fast as old me wanted to? No, I haven't. Has it all been working out perfectly? Yes. I am so grateful that I actually didn't rush, because that I was always trying to get to where I was going as fast as possible with my ass on fire. And do 2 businesses at once and raise a kid and all the other things that I was involved in. And I was always so impatient. And there are all of these coaches in the marketplace that are like, no, quit your job, make the big leap. You just have to make the decision and like be in my energy and match my vibration. And then everything is just like magically going to work out for you. And it's like,
Bitch, please. That's what I think.
yeah, some person's story, like, do some people have that story? Yes. One of my favorite business mentors, she quit her job in the middle of the night and she left her husband and had a kid and was pregnant, and like she had to make it work. And she still publicly speaks about how that wrecked her nervous system. And so, even though there were periods of discomfort and like the shame of being 30 and still a waitress, just a waitress, right? Now I'm able to look back and just have so much gratitude, because it gave me that stable foundation to regulate my nervous system, to have financial security, to be able to create offers from my heart and not from a place of necessity or scarcity. I've never, ever once had to put an offer out because I had to. Every single thing that I create is because it's been placed on my heart, and because I've also had the luxury of having my stable income to allow me to spend $10,000 in 6 months on a very intensive trauma resolution program, or, go to a retreat with an amazing mentor, or to study, to be mentored, to have coaches, to get certifications. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I know that even though I had that perceived like shame and stigma of like just being a waitress and feeling like it really triggered my mommy issues, and then the daddy issues that I have from my mommy, where I was like, oh, I have to be good enough. I have to be good enough. I have to earn my love and approval and acceptance and worthiness and work really hard. I've healed all of that, and I've had time and the financial resources to do it. And also, like, it's just so beautiful how perfectly the path has lined up for me, because I've been able to develop the skill sets. That time between like when I started my most recent, like my current job, and started my businesses to where I am now, like I have developed all the skill sets that I've needed to get to this point where it's like, wow, things are really taking off. And I have this gorgeous regulated nervous system, because old me would have like, ooh, things are getting too good. And I even got to the point where I was like, things feel so good. I feel like I'm about to like start a little ruckus because this doesn't feel safe, right? Like this, it's so good, it's not safe.
Yep.
So instead of just like something else happening, like I'll just be the one to screw it up, right?
Yep.
And now like I've gotten to work through all of that and come to this place where I'm really ready, and to leave that job soon and to do what I'm meant to do full time. And it's been a really beautiful journey.
Incredible. I love it. I want to go back to some things you said around safety with money and dig in a little bit deeper here, because I think this is something that a lot of people in my experience aren't aware of. And there's two sides, I feel. There's this fear of not even getting started because what you're making that mean about you. So you have all these tools that you're gathering for your own personal journey, and now you've committed to, I'm going to share these tools with others, I'm going to coach others, help them with it, and you have kind of this side thing where you're doing that. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are even afraid to do that while they still have a full-time job for so many reasons, but the emotion is fear, right? There's a fear. Yeah. But then there's also this like safety with money, like it feels comfortable, it feels safe. I'm going to continue doing this thing that I don't enjoy, going to a corporate job, going any job you just don't enjoy, even though I know I want something else. So my question around this is, how do you, and just more of your opinions on like, how do you actually continue to create safety and navigate the fear?
First and foremost, knowing that you can have both, because I think that we're kind of hammered a lot with like, you have to either be in the stereotypical 9 to 5 or, you know, a regular job, or you have to fully commit to being an entrepreneur, but like you can do both. My encouragement is to, like, if you are uncomfortable in a job, if you don't feel safe in a job, like there are other jobs. Do not be afraid to go out and find something that doesn't feel icky to your soul and to your body, because your body will start to create reasons for you not to go to that job. So first and foremost, just like making sure that you can do work that is as aligned as possible. And if for some reason, you know, that is not what you're going to do, then make sure that the rest of your life is in alignment to what you actually do want, which is, you know, like I have friends that I know that have been saying for years, oh, I'm only going to be doing this for 2 more years and then I'm going to be done. And 4.5 years later, they're still saying the exact same thing. And it's like, okay. And they have the side hustle that they haven't done. I actually gave this friend a little bag that said, everything you want is on the other side of fear. So it's like, are your actions in alignment? Are you developing your career on the side, right? Are you developing your skills? Are you devoting time to that? Or are you just like watching TV and shopping, you know? So you really have to, there's that decision, there's that commitment. And then using your money wisely and knowing that it loves to come to you, it loves to support you. All of your wants and needs are divinely supported, and making sure that you are being a good steward of what you're given and making sure that you leverage that money to get you where you really want to go.
I love it. I love it. How have you leveraged your money? I love that term, first of all, but I find that especially for women, when we talk about leveraging assets and using money to make more money, it's, you know, kind of deer in the headlights, like, I don't understand what that means. And there's a lot of how questions. So how have you done that for yourself? And how did you learn even?
I learned the true, like, I don't know if you're familiar with human design, but I'm a 3-5 manifesting generator. So I did it that way. Trial and error, throwing pasta at a wall to find out what sticks. But I grew up very poor. I was not taught anything about money, except for that it was hard to come by and that it left faster than it came. I learned that money was the source of pain and of tension and relationship issues. And so I really dove into my money mindset and figured out what I wanted my money story to be, and did a lot of work healing around my subconscious beliefs around money. I have a full course on it. But ultimately, I went the route of reinvesting everything that I earned back into my businesses. And I was able to do that because I had the job, right? So now I have this bartending company that went from, in 2019, we did 12 weddings. And in 2020, COVID year, did 80 in 6 months.
Yeah.
And I just continued to pay myself what I paid all of my other bartenders and work. I hired an assistant so that I could have the support. And I would be at my serving gig and I would have 4 bartenders at 4 different events, and I was making money in multiple places at the same time. And I did the same thing with my coaching practice. Anytime I would sign a high ticket client, I would invest in a new program or a new certification where I was growing my skill sets. And then I would balance as well. Like, for the 6 months, I'm going to focus on a skill set and embodying that. And then the next 6 months, I'm going to hire support for marketing or for content creation or whatever it is. So I, again, am so grateful for this job and this steady income so that I could hire the things along the way to really build a sustainable foundation, to get the support financially, to hire the CPA, to hire the assistant, to build it to a point where I have a team of 20 bartenders and I'm getting paid thousands and thousands of dollars for consulting. It was reinvesting back into the business, knowing this is what I'm good at. This is my zone of genius. That's my bartending company, right? That's my zone of genius. And then my passion and my other zone of genius is the healing work. And so I just reinvested everything back into growing that and growing my capacity as a leader and a business owner and walking the talk.
Yeah. Growing capacity as a leader, I think, is something, at least for me in my journey, like that was something like super pivotal, because once you start asking different questions of yourself and your capacity, and you say you want this, but do you understand what it's going to require of you, right? Now there's a responsibility in it. And now it's like, oh, okay, if I say I want to make X amount of dollars, if I say I want to live X lifestyle, it's going to require different things of me. So I love that you brought that up. I want to go back to something you mentioned around, hiring your first assistant, because this is another kind of, I don't want to call it a pain point, but stuck point where people get in. Okay, you're making good money, you created stability, and you're doing all this work. So from a mindset perspective, in your opinion, how did you allow yourself to hire an assistant and to delegate even, and to let some things go?
Well, I am neurodivergent. I'm extremely ADHD, and I know what my strengths are and I know what my weaknesses are. And I also knew that, I'm a manifesting generator, so it is just my nature to have multiple projects and for that to be fun and exciting and fulfilling for me. And I knew that I could not wear every hat in every business. So I really had the choice where it was like, do I roll the dice and go all in on this business and quit my job? Or do I stay at my job and do I hire someone that has a different skill set than I do and we do it together? And that's the route that I chose. And honestly, 4 years later, she is my Pepper Potts. She holds the keys to my kingdom. She's the wind beneath my wings, my North Star, and also my best friend. And we've never met in person. She lives in Australia. And now we're business partners and we're partnering on our own company. And I decided I'm going to not try to be good at everything or great at everything. It's finding, this is my zone of genius. This is my zone of excellence. This is my zone of mediocrity. And this is my zone of stay away and hire someone else. So just got very comfortable with I love myself. I don't have to be everything to everyone, and I'm going to hire support and stay at my job longer. And anytime I open my Canva and I'm looking at all the things that I've created, I'm like, it would literally take me 10 years just to turn a Google Doc into this. And she does it in 10 minutes. Yeah. So
my assistant, they're geniuses.
Geniuses. And there are also so many different, options to hire VAs at incredibly reasonable rates. If you have ever read 4 Hour Workweek, there's tons of resources in there. It is accessible to you. There are options available, even if you start with just a couple hours a week or a couple hours a month, whatever it is that you feel the most resistance around that is not your zone of genius or excellence, get support. And if that means staying in your job a little bit longer, I say for me, from my experience, it was an excellent decision.
Worth it. Yeah. There's 2 things I want to point out. Manifesting generator. So I am also a manifesting generator. And that's also something I had to learn, which was the delegation process, because my conditioned self was do all the things all the time. And I'm running around with my head cut off. But my version of that, at 100% is still better than most people's, 150%. So it was always confusing because it's like, well, I'm burnt out and I could still keep going, right? As the generator that I am. But that's where, to your point, like I would get into breakdown with my health and my nervous system, and can't do that forever. So if you're a manifesting generator and you're not delegating, this is a note to you to please start delegating as many things as possible, because you will get so much further, so much faster. And if that's what you want, delegate.
Yes.
And
Especially if
then,
you have open root.
And then the other part I want to, what was it? I didn't write it down. Okay. It'll come back to me if it's meant to be. Okay, I want to get into a little bit more of your work around trauma resolution and just have you share more of who you work with and who you really enjoy connecting with on that. And then I know you kind of listed off some of the specific modalities, but maybe just pinpoint 2 or 3 that like you really enjoy and are lit up by and can help people with.
Yeah. I have to say that somatics and parts work are 2 really special modalities. That and the trauma releasing body work. Those are definitely probably my favorites right now. If I had to choose a favorite, they're powerful. They're really powerful. And somatics involves it involves tuning into the body, right? Because the body is carrying unprocessed trauma, it's carrying unprocessed emotions. And the fact of the matter is that we're humans, so none of us are immune from trauma, right? And there's big T and there's little t trauma. There's different types of trauma. There's different flavors. We have all experienced it if we are human. And sometimes trauma is not what has happened, but what hasn't happened. So we've all been touched by trauma at some point. And 99.9% of us do not work with it and process it in a healthy way in the moment. What we do is, we usually do what our parents did and what's been modeled to us and what we're conditioned from a very early age is appropriate or acceptable. And then we cope, we numb, we dissociate. If you're like me, a lot of times, like the heady people, we dissociate. We just like pop out of our body. I realized I spent a solid 15 years out of my body because I was in chronic pain and experienced a lot of trauma that involved my body, and it was not a safe place to be. So I wasn't in my body until not that long ago. And it was just like it felt like a hallucinogenic experience, and like I'd been like dropped into some kind of simulation, and like my perspective with the world completely shifted. And now I can tell like, ooh, I'm overwhelmed. I'm starting to move out of my window of tolerance because I feel really, really tall. I feel like a balloon tied to a string tied to my body. When I know that I'm really grounded, when I feel like closer to the ground. It's really crazy. But yeah, trauma resolution has been really, really powerful. And like the last key that like really unlocked the door, because it was like, I know my vision, I know where I'm going, I know what I'm doing. The how is still not fully hashed out, but I know, and this is where we're going. But like the trauma work was what collapsed all of the patterns that kept me overworking to the point of burnout, because I was trying to earn and prove, or overworking because I was dissociating and didn't want to deal with things. And I'm so cute that I was thinking about my emotions and not feeling them, but I thought that thinking about my emotions was feeling them. And so like somatics is just connecting to the body and saying like, okay, the body's holding on to all of these things, and just noticing the sensations of the body and tracking the armoring and like, oh, this tension in my neck and shoulders, being present with it instead of just trying to make it go away or distract ourselves, but being present with it and then finding out what that stored emotion or stored trauma or stored energy is underneath it. And then with the loving presence of a safe practitioner, opening that up, being with it, being with what is, and allowing it to alchemize and to transmute and to reclaim that energy that you've been using to repress because it takes a tremendous amount of energy to keep these things repressed. Like my son in the bathtub the other day gave me the perfect example. He was trying to hold a balloon underwater, and he was struggling with it, and he's holding it, and then it slips out of his hands and it pops him in the face. And I was like, that is what we do with our trauma and our emotions. Like there's just such a huge stigma around emotions that we learn from our parents and they learn from their parents. And like, I think we're just now kind of starting to wake up to the fact that our emotions are important, that processing them with the loving presence of someone else who can hold us and hold safe space and love us, right? To give that love and attention to us, that compassion when we're going through an intense anger release or crying and snotty, like that is incredibly powerful and healing. And so that's what somatics does. And then the parts therapy really people are doing parts work all the time and they don't realize it. They'll be like, part of me like really wants to go to Target, but the other part of me is like, don't spend the money. Like those are our parts, right? So we use the somatics and the parts work to figure out where these programs are coming from, right? Where these old patterns are coming from. This feeling in my body, how old is it? Oh, this is from when I was 3 years old and my mom did this and it made me feel this for the first time. I've been carrying this since I was 3. And then allowing all of that emotion to be witnessed. And it's probably the most powerful thing that I've ever done for myself and that I've ever done for my clients. And I have not, all day my phone's been going off of like, oh my gosh, this is really working. Oh my God, this is so powerful. This is great. Hey, get it, like they're into it. And like, we've been at it for like a month in this mastermind that I'm doing, that these women are just like, I mean, it works so fast and it's incredible when you show up for the work. But yeah, trauma work is scary. It's very hard. There are definitely times where I'm like, this is the worst thing I've ever done. Why did I do this? And then 6 months later, I'm like, oh my God, all of these patterns are gone. Like my fawn response is gone. I can lovingly advocate for myself and reclaim my boundaries and have confronting conversations from a place of love and use it as an opportunity to learn more about what's important to each other and find something that works for everyone. Like it's mind-blowing and I'm lit up about it and I want the whole world to be able to experience it.
Yes, me too. So on that note, please share with everyone how they can find you. And then if you want to share about your mastermind or anything you got going on as programs that you are offering.
Oh yeah. My mastermind, I'm actually doing a really unique thing and it's currently only for local people because we do local meetups in a bathhouse where I lead really gorgeous regulation activities and meditations. I am working on transitioning that to a digital model to offer the same kind of presence and nourishment digitally. So stay tuned. But I did today. Do what?
Where are you located?
Oh, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I launched today my nervous system masterclass. It's going to be a 90-minute masterclass on how to regulate your nervous system, why it's important, what happens when you're in a trauma response, how to track your system and know if you're in hyperarousal or hypoarousal, what you can do to regulate and really just look at the impact that your trauma responses and your dysregulation, like how that's shown up in your life and how your childhood programming and experiences are really kind of pulling the strings behind the show, right? And it also comes with a very deep dive journal around anxiety and nervous system regulation and an integration call. So you can find that on my website, which is www.easywonderfullife.com. And I'm on all of the social media platforms with my name, Merydith Driscoll, spelled weird, but I'm sure there's show notes.
Well, look at the show notes. Amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You have been incredible, Merydith. If I was to pinpoint just one thing I've loved about this conversation, it is the level of honesty that you came to within yourself. And I would even go a step further, the action that you decided to take from that, right? Not just sitting with like, well, I'm aware and I know this is happening, but a lot of people get stuck in, but I don't know what to do about it. And they'll be given messages over and over and over, and they won't take action on those messages that keep showing up. So then that becomes the pattern. So I love the work that you are doing, and I'm just so grateful that you were able to share just even an ounce of that with Her Money Club. So
Oh, it's
thank
my
you
pleasure.
so much.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity to share.
Yeah, absolutely.